there's really three ways to identify entrepreneurship. You either have a passion, you have a skill, or you have a technology you already created. And based on this, use that to make an innovation-driven enterprise.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have Jackson, which is the founder of Treasure Tracker. Jackson, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Harry. So, to be completely candid, Treasure Tracker has not made $1 million in revenue yet. We're on the way. We're hitting that milestone soon. But wanted to be completely candid to your audience before I start spouting up some stuff.
Brilliant. Go for it.
But based on what we're doing and based on a lot of the things I've read and studied and just experienced, and if I could go back and do it all over again, here's the 5 steps I would do. So step 1 is there's really 3 ways to identify entrepreneurship. You either have a passion, you have a skill, or you have a technology you already created. And based on this, use that to make an innovation-driven enterprise. That's what's going to really be exponential. Now, in any enterprise, any entrepreneurship, there's going to be that time period where it does dip down, where you do need investment, you need capital influx, whether that's your own, friends and family, or even venture capital. So that's why you see a lot of these companies, they don't make any money within the first 2 years. Once you have that in mind, start undergoing some market research. You have an idea. Now it's time to segment that idea. Who do you target this to? Brainstorm as many as possible. I would say the more the better at this point. And eventually start cutting down based on what you think the commercialization is going to be, who you have experience with, who you have contacts with. I would recommend about 5. And after that, set up some client interviews. So I would go minimum, try to email at least 90 per segment. That's a big number. But just know you're probably going to hear back from only maybe 10% of those. So if you do maybe 9-10 interviews per segment, that's going to give you a really good and solid understanding of what's going to happen, what are the pain points of this market, and how can you really commercialize your product in the space. And then the fourth step is go ahead and test commercialization paths. I didn't actually do this with Treasure Tracker, but I wish I did before I started development. Make a landing page, have sign-up sheets, go social media, even use some paid ads. I'm not saying put $1 million budget on it, just $20 a day, see who's clicking, see what the demographic looks like, and really see, is this viable commercially? And the best thing you could do, and the best use case of success is actually, how can you get $1 in the door first without even making the product? Can you get a pre-order?
Wow.
Because that verifies in your mind that, yeah, you have something that's really working here. And then step 5, if it's successful, develop a minimal viable product. So don't go all out with your idea yet. This is a mistake I personally made. I went all in, developed all the features, all these different things. And you still don't entirely know your audience yet. So develop the features that are resonating, whether it's your paid ads or your interviews. Find out the things that really resonated with your audience, that specifically addresses those pain points, and develop on that. And nowadays, one of the best things is there's so many AI tools out there that you don't have to be a programmer to develop these tools. It does help to have some of the advice of a programmer for cybersecurity. But as far as design and even functionality goes, anybody can do it.
Wow, I love these 5 steps. And what is important is, this being a tech entrepreneur is no in a straight line. And this, I think that what we call it mistakes or things that you haven't taken into consideration at the beginning, probably is the best thing that happened to you, because you understand what was what was not working, and then you can adapt to it, right?
Absolutely. I like to say I've made every mistake in the book when I was first starting Treasure Tracker. I jumped right into development. I built out this app. I hired a whole development team. got friends and family investment, even approached a couple of VCs, and I lost a lot of money in the first couple steps. And I wish this is what I did in the beginning.
But you know what? You grow, and in the end of the day, I think that now you have developed this skill, right? I think that you might think that wow, this only happened to me, but it's very very common, right? And I have to congratulations. Very few people can see the other side. Can actually come back and repurpose on time, right? And I
Right.
think that this, I mean, entrepreneurship is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become, right? And it's
Absolutely.
gonna be the best thing that can happen to you at this early stage is to make the mistakes, yeah, because
Absolutely.
the,
No,
the,
it's a skill that can be taught to anybody.
it's
And what I would say is there's really no such thing as a failure unless you really give up. You can always
exactly
pivot your idea, you can always jump to another market, but if you give up entrepreneurship, that's where the failure lies.
absolutely. And so then when tell us about this, how you come up with this idea, yeah, and what make you think that that's gonna be that there is a space in the tech space for that idea, and what make you difference, guys?
Absolutely. So Treasure Tracker, it started off actually as a home inventory application.
Okay.
I was inspired. It was a couple years ago when I was still in college, and I was working retail at the time. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Marshall Fire in the Boulder County area in Colorado.
Mm.
What happened is an electrical fire happened back December
Wow.
2021, and winds were very high that day, over 75 miles per hour.
Wow.
And as a result, over 1,000 homes burned down and two people lost their lives. It was a horrible tragedy. It devastated my community. And I remember being actually working my job at the time. I was retail at a liquor store. And the most poignant memory that I can remember is this man coming in. He was getting a bottle of champagne because it was right before New Year's. And he says, I'm going to be celebrating New Year's in a hotel room because I don't have a house.
Wow.
That to me, that was horrible just to watch because that's a member of my community. Uh, and after graduating college later that semester, I set out to develop something to help people with the insurance claim process, make things smoother, and develop this application designed to track all your belongings, all your valuables. And that way, if something does happen, you have the appraisals, you have the receipts, photos, documentation, everything.
Wow.
And you can send it right away to the insurance company. Now, guess how many sales I made in the first year?
Zero.
Zero, absolutely right. Because what I learned is, and this is going back to the 5 steps, I didn't really talk to people when I was developing it, and I didn't really test it. And I learned nobody wants to pay for a chore. And I stuck with it. I was so stubborn. I stuck with that idea that people wanted to document their house and they would pay money to do a chore. And I kept pushing on it. And it wasn't it wasn't until last year I went through a personal tragedy of my own. Um, my grandfather, he passed, and it was in that moment I realized it's not the financial value of the objects that's so important. He was a wonderful man. He was a computer science professor, a choir member, a racquetball player, a world traveler, did all these incredible things. And he had a lot of stuff. And I remember talking with my family as I was going through it. And even my grandmother, there's some things that we might not know the story behind, some books he has that we have questions about where he got that book, and what the story is, and what some of the things, of course, we know are important to him, but some things we don't know have that understanding behind. Uh, and Treasure Tracker really shifted in that moment because it was a regret of mine that we didn't have that. And we already had the infrastructure to do this. We already had the infrastructure to catalog your items, catalog your stuff. So we just added a voice functionality. And now what we are is we're a storytelling company. So
Oh,
we
wow.
let people go through their house. They can take a photo of their object. When they do that, they can record a story. So they can have their parents tell a story, their grandparents tell a story, and forever that's going to be logged in your phone, logged in the software. And so it doesn't matter how many generations down the line, they're always going to have those files. And now it adds importance to your objects and adds importance to your treasures. And that's fundamentally what we do is we connect generations by bringing your treasures to life.
Wow, that's amazing. Sounds a great story. And let me tell you a story about technology. Yeah, there was one guy, right, that once wanted to do a game, right? He wanted to do this game that is gonna change the world, and so he started to develop this game and everything. And guess what happened? He couldn't finalize the game, right? But in the end, in that process developing this game, they develop a system to take pictures, to collect pictures, to handle pictures, and they managed to set this to Yahoo. Yeah, and the guy make a lot of money out of this. Yeah, and then he make a lot of money out of this. I say, okay, now I have a lot of money. My investor make a lot of money. Now I'm gonna do the game. And start again to do the game and everything. And again, the game didn't take off. And the guy said to his investor, you know what? I have by developing the game, we design a collaboration process system that help us to manage the process and everyone. Yeah. So why the rest of the money we don't put in that thing, because the game is not going to take off. And that product was Slack. You know, I don't know if you're aware. Slack is a massive company. So the point of the story is that, you know, when you are in a developing technology, right, there are and you're up to something, sometimes a little shift on the market or a little shift of what you actually created can be the solution. It's not about giving up. It's you manage to repurpose the technology and something very important, which is the digital data of the people. We have a data blueprint that when our loved one pass away, things disappear. You will receive a message. Can you close your Facebook account? Can you close this? Can you please don't write to this person anymore? Don't write to this WhatsApp. And the story of that person, the blueprint, the digital print of that person is start to manage. And then, but what you create is amazing because from generations to come, the grandchildren will be able to see who was his great-grandfather and maybe can hear with his own voice about things that he had done, and that could be a source of inspiration. So I know that you're onto something amazing. And tell us about what advice do you have for tech entrepreneurs, right? That and you've been there, and this is very common, right? That they are developing the product, putting all the effort, money, and energy in the product without talking to the people and having that market validation. Yeah. And what is your advice for them? Yeah. To help them out to shift the mindset so they can turn the course and be in the right track.
Yeah, I think if I were to go to my younger self and talk to him, I got first thing I would say, especially to young entrepreneurs, listen to people. In the past, I was
don't be stubborn, yeah.
Don't be stubborn, don't be arrogant. And that was kind of the place I was coming from, especially when I first started this. It was almost kind of like kind of a haughty arrogance where I was I thought I knew right because this was my idea, and since it's my idea, it's got to be great. And that's just not how it works.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.